What would you do if you had a child that you wanted to be the greatest athlete in the world? Would you do anything for that to happen, including rubbing him against your chest? And then we take a look at the story of a young man living in a house who's just trying to get by. He's going to college. He has to worry about tests. He has to worry about attendance. He has to worry about all the stuff that goes along with being in school. But he has another more pressing worry, and that is the dark entity that watches him while he's sleeping. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too, and hope you guys had an awesome weekend. I'm losing track of time. Because I'm remodeling everything here. I got some IKEA furniture in. I'm excited. But maybe I'm so excited I don't know what day it is. However, someone who always knows what day it is, someone who's a walking calendar, everyone get on your feet and give it up for Rob, the half-herd. Woohoo, yeah, wee! Ha-ha, yeah, he only hears half of our clapping. Just one hand for him. Rob, the half-herd, has been getting the word out about Dead Rabbit Radio, and that is so important. So that is why he is going to be our captain, our pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially through the Patreon and the merch store, it's totally fine. It really is. Just do what Rob did. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Rob, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to toss you the keys to a new vehicle. A new vehicle. Hey, everyone dress like a baby. Everyone put on your diapers. You're like, is this some fluffle fetish vehicle? No. We're babies now, though. We're babies. We're not adults wearing diapers. We're babies wearing diapers. That's not creepy. That's normal. Everyone climb on board the bunny baby carriage. As Rob pushes, we're still adult-sized in diapers. He's like, oh, this is so heavy. And there's no engine. No, you just gotta push it. The engine is you, Rob. Everyone climb on board the bunny baby carriage as Rob pushes us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to a baby's house. What was that? That was the sound effect for the baby carriage. Rob, the half-herd, is pushing us all the way out to this baby's house, and we get there. We're adults now. Stop imagining you're in a diaper, unless maybe you are into that, but let's just put that aside for now. Those adult diaper fetishists, it's one of the weirdest things, right? They're all weird. All the fetishes are weird on different degree. First off, before you hit fast forward, this has nothing to do with diaper, baby, adult fetishes. But if you'll allow me a moment, it's the weirdest one of all. Okay, maybe that's true. You're like, Jason, there's a lot of weird ones. Okay, it's in the top 10. I don't understand pooping yourself and enjoying it. I don't understand it at all. And what I understand even less, because there's always two sides of this fetish. You're like, Jason, how long are you going to talk about this? Just a moment. There's always two parts of the diaper-wearing fetish community. There's the pooper, and then the poopee. Not that they go number one and number two, but generally this crazy fetish, you have a guy walking around in diapers, pooping his diapers, and then someone changes him, who pretends they're an adult, changes him. And so you have to have two parts of it, because otherwise you would just die. If you just pooped all day long in a diaper and never changed your diaper, eventually maggots are going to move in to your butthole, and you're dead. And you're a baby, so you can't change your own diaper. You're like, oh, I'm taking this fetish way too far. You starve to death because no one gives you a bottle. It's the weirdest thing. And every so often these guys pop up in my not true crime content I make, but I watch a lot of true crime stuff on YouTube. There was one of those predator poacher videos, Pred Hunters or whatever it was, where they caught a guy and they got him to wear a super humiliating, but I mean, again, you can't really have much sympathy for a guy trying to pay a 13-year-old or 15-year-old, however the girl was. It was a decoy. But this predator hunter group set this guy up and they said, hey, come to this house and you're into the diaper stuff, right? And he's like, yeah. Wear a diaper to the Sting house. But they didn't call it the Sting house. They just said, wear a diaper over to this girl's house. So he does, and then they come in with cameras to go, haha, I caught you. You're a predator. You're a sexual predator. We're going to put you all over the internet, and you're getting arrested. But he's in diapers. So, first off, he's going to go to jail wearing diapers, which is not a great look, right? You already got 2 strikes against you going in as a sexual predator. But not only that, when the film crew jumped out to surprise them, I'll put this video in the show notes if I can still find it. YouTube might have taken it down at this point. But as the predator hunters or the predator poachers or whatever they call themselves jumped out of the closet going, aha, we got you, you sicko. What would you expect a man who loves diapers? What do you think his first response would be to being surprised and terrified? He immediately poops the diaper. He immediately defecates in his diaper. He's so scared. And the predator hunters keep going, ooh-wee, stinky. Wow, man, you sure are a stinky predator. And he's like, oh, you're right. I am stinky and I am a predator. Oh no, my life's over. The interview was like an hour and a half long. They're just interviewing this guy with poop in his pants. And then the cops show up. And the predator hunters are like, yeah, you might want to be careful with this guy. If you're going to put him in the back seat of your cruiser, you bring a hose. Hope you guys can clean off the back seat because his diaper is full of poop. It's such a bizarre fetish. And I see them every so often pop up in true crime videos like that one. I saw a recent one where the wife was committing some sort of crime, but the husband loved wearing diapers, so he had to explain to the police. I had nothing to do with my wife's horrible crime. I think it was child abuse. I have nothing to do with that. And the police are like, well, why did we find a bunch of diapers at your house? And he goes, oh, that's me. It has nothing to do with my wife or my kid. I just love wearing diapers. I'm wearing diapers right now. And so the cops are like, okay, well, I mean, listen, he might be guilty of something, but he wasn't guilty of the crime. If I remember correctly, they let him go. So odd. But anyways, this has nothing to do with any of that. You're like, wow, talk about a tonal shift. The story I'm about to talk about has nothing to do with adults wearing diapers. But we are going to meet a baby. This is such an interesting story, and it's something that I think is going to start taking place a lot more. In Sweden, back in the year 2017, there is this little baby girl. We'll call her Isabella. We don't have the real name because this was a medical journal article. This little girl, Isabella, is born, and everyone's like, oh, look at little Bella, little Bella, I'm going to touch your belly. Ooh. And, you know, they're doing all the normal baby stuff. Ooh, baby, look how high I can throw you in the air. Oh, look at, she doesn't throw up. She's not throwing up. Maybe she'll be an acrobat when she grows up. Or you're like rolling your baby on the ground. You're like, I mean, imagine babies would be kind of boring after the first couple days. The novelty wears off. At that point, you're just kind of looking at a big lump of flesh. And you're just like, well, now what do we do? It was cool the first couple days when she was making all these noises and stuff. It was kind of cute, but it's been a week. You know, and then eventually I'm sure that they start to be entertaining. Probably around 4 or 5, I don't know. But there's a long run where the baby's just super boring. But not Isabella, actually. Isabella's in a medical journal. I mean, listen, the parents aren't happy about this. And I don't think Isabella would be either. But what happened was, so apparently there's this thing called kangaroo care. It's some parenting thing. Because, you know, normally, like, you have the mom and she's holding the baby to her chest and being like, oh, mommy love Isabella. Mommy love you so much. Oh, look at my little baby. But it's good, I guess, I've never heard of this before, for both parents to do that. So the dad will hold the baby to his chest and go, oh, Isabella, look at you, so beautiful. He's like, oh, well, you're kind of boring, but I better keep my mouth shut. But you're beautiful but boring, little baby. And you're supposed to, like, rub the baby on your chest. It helps to bond the baby to you. You're all, scrub-a-dub-dub. You're all moving. Oh, I gotta get you under my armpits, baby. Oh, yeah. Apparently you rub the baby on your chest, or at least hold it. The dad's holding the baby, Isabella, to his chest. It's this kangaroo care. Now, when you have a baby, you're supposed to take him to the doctors on pretty regular intervals. I don't know, maybe like every 3 to 6 months. Probably when it's first born. Like, within a week, you probably go back to the doctor and go, is everything okay with my baby? The doctor's like, yes, please stop calling me. You're not the first person in the world to give birth to a kid. But I'm sure there's checkups, right? Make sure that their teeth are coming in right. Make sure that their brain's developing. You probably have like some sort of caliper to measure the spine and go, your baby's spine is perfect. But at one of these checkups, the parents talk to the doctor and they go, hey, doc, we're a little concerned. This is our first kid, but we've noticed some stuff is different. There's something going on down there. So I'm going to spare you the gory details because just reading the sentence aloud feels like cursed media. But basically what was happening was Isabella, she's a baby, she was developing male sex organs that she didn't have before. They were fusing, I think was the actual term that they used. Again, I don't want to read the sentence, it's too gross. But she was growing male genitalia. And the genitalia that she was born with was beginning to fuse and reshape. So it looked like she was turning into a boy. And the doctor goes, what? Like, how's that happening? And they go, well, that's our question. We were coming to you hoping you could figure it out. And the doctor did figure out what was going on. Everything was fine with Isabella, but when she was 10 months old, she started developing male sexual organs. And what the hypothesis was, which turned out to be correct, was the father was rubbing testosterone gel on his chest for some sort of testosterone treatment. After a certain age, men start to lose testosterone. So they have treatments for that. Keep you strong, keep you virile. Great, right? It's good that it's out there. But because he was rubbing it on his chest and then holding the baby, the testosterone gel was so potent that it was seeping into the baby as well. And the baby was getting an overdose of testosterone and beginning to develop male sex organs. So they stopped doing it. They stopped doing it, and Isabella's genitals started to shrink and reshape back into their normal form she was born with. So they stopped rubbing the baby on your chest, and everything should be normal. Everything should go back to the way it was, and that did work. But this isn't a standalone case. You could go, well, that was just some weird freak accident. No. Because more people are taking testosterone treatments and estrogen treatments, their children are being exposed to it. This is happening all over. And I bet you this is happening a lot more than we think. Either the parents aren't being super attentive to it, or the doctors aren't reporting it in medical journals. But the cases that we do see, there was a boy at age 10 who was exposed to estrogen cream. And at age 10, he had fully developed breasts. You're a 10-year-old boy, life's already hard enough growing up. All of a sudden, you have boobs. Fully developed boobs. And they didn't say if that went back to normal for him. They don't know if the estrogen, he stopped being exposed to it, if his chest reduced. I don't know. Crazy, though. We covered a story a long time ago. There was an island, was it Dominican Republic or Haiti or something like that, where it was very normal for the children. It was like 1 out of 100 kids this would happen to. I'll put the episode in the show notes, but it happened so often they had special words to describe it, where children were born of one sex, and then when they hit puberty, they became a different sex. I mean, this has been studied. This isn't some conspiracy theory. Again, check out that episode, but the scientists can never really figure out exactly what it was. It's so prevalent in that community. Sometimes parents will name their kids a name that is asexual, like Toby or something like that. So if your son turns into a girl at age 13, you don't have to figure out a new name. Chris, right? It could be Christina. It could be Christopher. So this does happen. That particular, they don't know what causes that. It's been happening for a long, long time. This one, I imagine, is just going to start happening more and more. 40% of men over the age of 45 have been diagnosed with low testosterone. And I want testosterone. I don't have low testosterone, but I'm always asking about it. The doctor's like, no, you can't have it. You have totally normal testosterone rates for your age. You cannot have more. But then I think about like this. Right? I just want it because I want to be like stronger. I want to be stronger. But the doctor goes, that's not what it's for. It's for people whose body isn't producing it. I'm not going to turn you into the Incredible Hulk just because you want to. But I read the story and I thought, obviously, like, if it's happening accidentally to your kid, that you don't know what's going on at first, then when you figure it out, you could stop it. But what's to stop a man? Let's use me, for example. I don't have any kids. But let's say I can get my hands on some testosterone cream. Probably buy it on the black market, probably get some from the dark web. Or I could just lie to my doctor. I could stop lifting weights in the doctor's office. I was like, I could be 10 times stronger than this. Come on, Brooke, let me lift stronger. Let's say I got a hold of someone. Let's say I was a dad. Hypothetical. Let's say I was a dad and I wanted my kid to be the best football player. I would start covering them in testosterone. They go to school, they look like they walked through an exploding birthday cake factory. They're like, why are you covered in white goo, dude? It's nothing. Let's go to the track. Let's see who's the fastest. Because that's what happened. That kid who... Actually, there was another example. I didn't look on my notes. I knew it was in here somewhere. There was a 16-month-old boy who was exposed to testosterone cream. It was the same thing. He was exposed to it because his father was using it. And it did accelerate his sex organ development, which we don't need that part of it. That's horrible. It's weird. But it also made him taller and stronger. At 16 months, he was strong. He was stronger than all of the other babies out there. So imagine if you had access to some of this stuff. You could develop super athletes. You could take these otherwise normal kids and cover them in testosterone. You're like, Jason, it will kill them. It's destroying their body. Do you know nothing about testosterone overdose? They'd have like full-on acne at the age of 3, covered in body hair, but they'd also be faster and stronger than all the other 3-year-olds. And you want to do it constantly. You just do it every once in a while. Spray a little bit on them. You're like, every family does this. Psst. You could pretend it is suntan lotion and always say, hey, we're going to the beach, kids. And then you keep saying it's sunblock. He's constantly burned. He's like, why doesn't this sunblock work? But he's also 6'4" at age 7. I could see people using this. And here's the thing. This is something that you could use. I'm not trying to give anyone any advice. This would actually be quite horrible. All jokes aside. I don't like sports. I don't like sports and I don't have kids, so you don't have to worry about this. But I read this and I go, there are a lot of people who do like sports and do have kids. You go and you get testosterone. You get testosterone replacement therapy. You get the gel. And then you put it on your kid. And if anyone asks why your 5-year-old is getting the other kids in headlocks and the teacher, you go, oh, that's what was going on. I kept putting the testosterone gel on myself, and then I would hug my kid, and it must have been, I didn't mean to make my kid into a sports monster. Sorry, shucks. Like, you could hand wave it off like that. So if anyone ever caught you, you'd be like, oh, it was an accident. And the cops show up, you spray testosterone in their eyes. They're like, run, Billy, run! You're faster than every adult you've ever met. Your little kid is taken off to the woods. I'm wondering if this is happening. And people would just go, wow, your kid sure does have some crazy growth spurts. The other day I shook his hand and he dislocated my shoulder. And he's only 9 years old. You could totally do this. And again, that would be the out. You'd be like, oh, well, he must have gotten into it. It was mine. Sorry. I wondered, I had to go to ChatGPT for this because there was no website that would give me this information. I wondered what would happen if I, a man with enough testosterone that my doctor won't give me anymore, I wonder what would happen if I fell into an ocean of estrogen. Like, what would be the process of me underwater, but everything's estrogen, the estrogen cream, basically jump off of a cliff into a big thing of estrogen cream. I asked ChatGPT, what would it do to me? And it said you would die. It said you would die. You would just be completely... It didn't even mention suffocating. It didn't mention any of that. They said the amount of estrogen that would soak through you in a matter of, I wouldn't say minutes, but if you're down there, even if you're up to your neck in it, so I could breathe, they go, you would just die of an overdose. There would just be too much of it. You're not supposed to cover yourself in it. But then I go, hey, and I don't use ChatGPT much for this show, but I thought this was entertaining enough to share. Because again, no website was going to put this information up. I go, what would happen if, let's assume it didn't kill me instantly. Let's assume that I didn't die of an overdose. What would happen? And it gave me this timeline, which there's no way to verify. It basically said if I was up to my neck in it, and it didn't kill me instantly, within 48 hours, I would see a loss of libido and erectile issues. Which, I think being submerged in anything up to your neck for 48 hours might cause those things. You could be up to your neck in pudding, and eventually you're going to be like, I don't feel like having sex. All I want to do is get out of the pudding. After 1 to 2 weeks, my breasts would become tender. And then 1 to 3 months, there's something called breast budding, which kind of sucks that they hurt first. First, your breasts hurt for a couple weeks, right? 1 to 2 weeks. You're like, oh, my chest. I mean, also, you're like, I wish you brought a book. It's super boring. I'm just floating in a thing of estrogen. There's not even any television for me to watch. 1 to 2 weeks after being submerged in estrogen, constant. It's not that you get out and get a towel and then go about your day. You're still swimming in it. Your breasts will begin to hurt. And then 1 to 3 months after that, your breasts begin to grow. Also, your fat redistributes. So, like, my stomach fat would probably go to my butt, maybe, right? Or, I guess, it goes somewhere. I'm all vomiting it up, blah. Has to go somewhere, blah. Big yellow chunks shooting out. It's just floating in front of me. It's like, oh man, I got a couple more months I gotta live in here. Watching your fatty vomit float in front of you. Also, your skin gets softer. You start to become more emotional. According to this, I'm not being sexist. You become more emotional. But again, you probably have a lot of emotions if you were trapped in anything for 1 to 3 months. You're like, oh, my life sucks. Oh, this is horrible. 3 to 6 months, I would have visible breast growth. At that point, I'd have a full set of double Ds probably. But anyway, so yeah, that's what would happen if you didn't instantly die. Like, that's the most useless factoid you've ever given. It's for a hypothetical situation that the answer is it'll kill you instantly. But if it doesn't, you'll get boobs floating around in estrogen cream. I imagine we will see more kids having these changes simply because their parents are using these drugs. And I do think that you'll see dad, because listen, you can inject your kid full of steroids, you're going to get caught. But this stuff, that's the key component. If you get caught, you go, whoopsie, my bad. You could brush it off as a mistake. You can't be like, oh no, sorry, I was walking through the house with a syringe full of steroids and accidentally tripped and fell and injected my son right before the big game. That's not going to work. That's not going to fly. But you could say my son was accidentally exposed to all of this testosterone. I'm not saying it's a good idea, just so we're clear. I'll go so far to say I'm pretty sure it's child abuse. You'd get arrested. But, hypothetically, you would have, you're like, Jason, no, you have this whole segment. You're like, oh, you can totally get away with this. And here's how. I'm going to give you all the alibis possible. People are doing it accidentally, which makes me think people will do it on purpose and say it was an accident. But I do think accident or on purpose, this is going to be happening a lot because we just have newer, stronger estrogen and testosterone replacement therapies. More people are going to be on them and more kids are going to be exposed to them. Rob, the half-herd, let's go ahead and toss you the keys to the world-famous Carpentercopter. We are leaving behind the endless sea of estrogen. Why don't you fly us all the way out to a local college? We're flying all the way out to this college town. We don't have an exact location, and this story really could have benefited from that, but I understand people don't want to get doxxed. People are very paranoid about posting stuff on the internet with their location, even if it was years ago. Let's take a look at the story. First off, let's give a shout out to the last 747. They're the one who sent the story over to me. It's quite fascinating. So thank you, the last 747, for all of your hard work on the show. Really do appreciate it. We're headed out to this college town. The year is 2012, and we're about to meet roommates. We're about to meet two young college dudes. We'll call one of them Teddy. He'll be the narrator, and then his friend we will call Jeff. They end up moving into an off-campus apartment together, where they will be staying on the 3rd floor. I think this is one of those really weird East Coast things where they take a house and call it an apartment building. But it might just actually be an actual apartment building. I'm not for sure. Like, Jason, what's your gripe with houses called apartments? They're not apartments. Call it what it is. It's a house. But anyways, I know on the East Coast, they have a house and they just go, you're living in an apartment now. I don't know why it bugs me, but it does. It's so weird. Anyways, this may or may not be that. But the fact is, they're going to be staying on the 3rd floor of this apartment or house. I'll just call it apartment. You're like, it's confusing. I don't know what to picture. Well, picture one of those weirdo houses, because it does seem to be a house that's developed into an apartment complex. Would that be what you call it? A bunch of whatever. A house that's turned into an apartment. Now I'm confused. Honestly, I don't even know what to picture. But Teddy says, listen, forget all of Jason's odd things. Listen to Teddy. Teddy says, listen, the house, right, when you're outside, looked really, really creepy. You're like, oh, we're going to be living here for the rest of our college life? I don't know, it looks kind of spooky. But once you went inside, it was beautiful. There's nothing spooky about being on the inside. So Teddy's like, ooh, okay, it might be hard to get girls to come over because it looks like the house that Jack built. It looks like a house from a horror movie. It looks like, what's that Norman Bates guy lives here. He doesn't even know the reference. It looks like Jaws lives here. There we go. Everyone knows Jaws is a horror movie. This house looks like it was built by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre himself. But once you get inside, you're able to get a girl over and through the threshold. She's like, oh, this isn't so bad. But looks can be deceiving. It's going to get complicated again. From the outside, it looks spooky. Inside, it looks not spooky. But it turns out that it is spooky inside. Even though it doesn't look like it. But it looks like it from the outside. Teddy and his friend Jeff, they're going to be staying on the 3rd floor of this building. And it wasn't long before the scariness started for Teddy. One night he's deep asleep and he wakes up. He's just laying there in the darkness, his eyes wide open, and it takes him a second to realize what woke him up. But once he realizes it, he is overcome with a sense of dread. He feels that his bed is softly rocking back and forth. Huh? And he's looking around. His bed is slightly shaking. This is honestly one of my personal fears. I always have a fear that when I go to bed, my bed's going to start shaking. Not like if there's someone else in it, right? If I'm making love to a woman, I'm not like, we have to be perfectly still, otherwise I'll be too scared. Obviously, if the bed's a rockin', don't come a knockin'. But if it's just me in the bed, I've had this fear since childhood. If it's just me in the bed, I should say all the time, but a lot of the times, I'm afraid it's going to start shaking uncontrollably. That's a deep fear of mine. It's never happened to me either, as far as I can recall. But anyways, his bed's shaking, and he just feels this utter sense of dread. He reaches over and he turns on the light, and the shaking immediately stops. He goes, well, this is an old house and or apartment building. He goes, but it's old either way. Maybe it was just the house settling or something like that. So he's up for a little bit, but eventually he shuts the light off, closes his eyes to go back to sleep, and then soon enough, the bed starts shaking again. Teddy said, it obviously was alarming. He didn't know what was causing it, but it didn't happen all the time. But it happened a lot. Right when either it would wake him up from a sleep, it would wake him up in the middle of the night, the bed would be shaking. And it's super disconcerting. He doesn't know what's causing it. But eventually, it began happening every single night. Every single night, he'd wake up from a deep sleep to the bed rocking. So eventually, he goes to Jeff, his roommate, and he's like, hey, dude, this is going to sound weird, but my bed keeps rocking. Every time I go to sleep, my bed keeps rocking, and he explains it to Jeff, and Jeff says, well, that sucks for you. I don't feel any weirdness. That hasn't happened to me. I don't think the place is haunted or anything like that. And Teddy's like, oh, okay, I was kind of hoping you did too, because otherwise I think I might be going insane. Are you sure it's not a shadow man hiding in your closet? No, positive. Oh, man. What's the most essential thing to a college student? Sleep. You got to get a good night's sleep for the test. You got to get a good night's sleep for the classes. And that's the one thing that Teddy can't have is a good night's sleep. Every single night at this point, he's woken up because his bed is shaking. It starts to affect his grades. He's sitting there in class and the teacher's like, this will be on your biology test, ladies and gentlemen. If a frog has 4 legs and it jumps 15 times in a row, and it does that for 5 million years, eventually the frog may evolve a 5th leg. He looks at his notes, there's a question mark. He's like, I don't know if that's been proven yet. But over time, frogs will evolve. They will evolve just like all species. If you have a tree that's very rigid, but you plant it near a big windy place, and the wind keeps blowing on it, after 5 million years, the tree will become bendy. Because it will evolve to its environment, and all the students are writing this down really quickly. They're looking at each other and shrugging their shoulders. Like, I don't think that's how it works. You're taking all these notes. Well, Teddy's just in a fugue state. He's like, I didn't get any sleep last night. My bed keeps rocking. I'm pretty sure my professor is speaking gibberish. And also, I don't have a biology class this semester. What am I doing here? I'm supposed to be in art history. He doesn't get any sleep. So it's totally affecting his classes. It's affecting his life. So he starts to think, I have to do something to fix this. So he begins drinking. He goes, maybe if I get really drunk before I go to bed, I'll sleep through it. So he starts doing that. He begins drinking. He's kicking back Budweiser. Yum, 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 yum. 3 or 4 of those knocks him out. But it doesn't matter, because he wakes up in the middle of the night, the bed shaking, and he's vomiting. Oh, at that point, he's like, oh, I'm glad you woke me up. I almost choked on my own vomit. Thanks, ghastly figure hiding in the darkness. Alcohol isn't working. He begins taking sleeping medication, which, if you guys, I think I've discussed this on the show before, sleeping pills. Check this out. I know you guys don't believe me. I say this all the time. People, I have to show them. Sleeping pills are just blue Benadryls. It's the exact same medication and the exact same dose. It's just painted blue or colored blue. Same thing. But anyway, so he's taking those. He'll fall asleep, but then he wakes up the bed shaking. He's like, okay, obviously I'm self-medicating. This isn't working. He goes to the doctor. Doctor goes, I don't know. I don't know why someone's shaking your bed, but I'm a doctor. I'm not a ghostbuster. I don't know why you came to me. Oh, okay. He goes to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, one of the two. He goes to a shrink, and they can't help him either. And it's getting worse. He just has no rest at home. He's really at this point thinking, I just need to move out, because this just is not working. But he also thinks it's him, because Jeff isn't feeling anything. He doesn't feel any hauntings anywhere else in the place. It's like, is this some sort of mental illness that I have? I think that's why he was trying to get medical help. It's been going on for a while, but it's been a month since he started drinking and taking sleeping medication and all this stuff. Finally, one night, a friend of Jeff's comes over. We'll call him Adam. Adam, Jeff, and Teddy are sitting on the couch in the living room, just hanging out, drinking a couple beers. When all of a sudden, Adam turns to Teddy and goes, dude, what is shaking this couch? And Teddy's like, yes! Finally, I'm not the only one who notices any of this stuff. Now, what's interesting about that little part there is that Jeff doesn't mention that it's shaking, and Teddy doesn't even mention that it's shaking as well. It seems like only Alex picked up on it. And previous to this, the couch has never been shook. It's always just been Teddy's bed. So that's kind of a weird detail to this story as well. But Teddy doesn't really give any more information about that. However, he is finally relieved that it's not him. He's not insane. There's some sort of invisible invader in the house that is disrupting his peace. So he's like, the place is haunted. That's the only way 2 people could have felt it. I have to move out. So he starts making plans to move out. However, before he can, one night he falls asleep and he has a dream. Hey, Teddy! Here's a fast one. Go! Hey, yeah, Teddy, good job. Teddy is dreaming that he is a child back on the street he grew up on, and him and the local kids are playing street hockey. Here's another fast one, Teddy. Try to block this. Swap. Teddy, stop it. Stop that ball from going in. Oh, no. They're playing this game of street hockey, but the ball or the puck or whatever they use to play street hockey rolls into the sewer. Teddy, you nincompoop. You were supposed to stop it before it got into the sewer. Teddy walks over to the sewer grate, and he goes in to get the ball or disc or whatever they're using, and he sees, instead of the ball sitting in the sewer, he sees there's a little boy in there. Hey guys, look! There's a little boy in the sewer! So the police are called, police show up, they're able to get the boy out of the sewer, and at this point, Teddy's parents are out there, and they go, you know what? Officers, I think we got it from here. Since you did all the hard work of getting the kid out of the sewer and spraying him down with a fire hose so he's not covered in poop, we'll adopt him now. And the police go, okay. And they leave this boy with the family. The problem is, I don't know what they were expecting. They found him in the sewer. The problem is, this little boy is a bad boy. He keeps causing chaos in Teddy's household. He's breaking things on purpose, just misbehaving. Go to your room, sewer boy. What? No, I'm not. I'm going to stand right here. I'm going to stand right on top of your head as you try to watch television. I'm going to do a little dance. Ow, sewer boy. Go to your room. He's constantly back-talking the parents. He's not a nice guy at all. And that's putting it lightly, because at one point, this kid that they got from the sewer tries to kill Teddy's dog. Run, Rover, run! Look out! It's Sewer Boy! They don't even name him on the adoption papers. They just wrote Sewer Boy. Sewer Boy's after you, Rover. Run, run! Sewer Boy, stop! Well, anyways, that's kind of the last straw. You can kind of put up with a kid back-talking you. But when he tries to murder your pet, what are you going to do? You got to get rid of him. But they're not going to put him back in the sewer, right? Maybe he deserves to go down there. He can kill alligators to his heart's content. But they take him to family court because they actually have to, unadopt him. Now, this is all a dream, right? You're like, I don't think you can unadopt a kid, but this is all his dream. Teddy's dreaming all this stuff. He did say it was the most vivid dream he ever had as far as, the sights and the sounds. But obviously, the dream logic, you can't really adopt a kid that you find in the sewer that day. It's probably a pretty long process. In the dream, the little boy is sitting there in his Sunday best, covered in swamp water. His lawyer's an alligator. He's sitting there, and one by one, Teddy's family goes up on the stand and says, we don't want Sewer Boy living with us anymore because he breaks stuff and he's always talking back and he tried to kill the dog. And then the mom gets up on stand and says, I don't like Sewer Boy anymore either. He's always constantly tap dancing on people's heads while they're trying to watch television. All this stuff, right? Everyone gets up and explains why they don't want Sewer Boy in their home. Then it's Teddy's turn. And he gets up on the stand and the judge goes, so why don't you want to live with Sewer Boy anymore? And Teddy's like, well, first off, the name. It's really hard to be known around town as Sewer Boy's brother. But mostly because he tried to kill my dog. That's a big thing. Rover is my dog, and this little menace over there tried to murder him. The lawyer, I think it's their family lawyer, not Sewer Boy's lawyer, but again, dream logic, maybe there's just one lawyer involved. The lawyer is how he's described. The lawyer then asks Teddy, do you know this boy? And Teddy goes, no. No, because he doesn't know him. He's just a kid he found from the sewer. The lawyer goes, are you sure you do not know who this boy is? And Teddy goes, no, I never met him until the day that we found him in the sewer. I'd never seen him before that. And when Teddy makes that comment, he's staring right at Sewer Boy, seated at the table. He's looking right at him. And that's when Sewer Boy says, you know exactly who I am. I'm the one who's been shaking your bed every night. Teddy immediately wakes up His heart is racing, sweat is dripping down his body, and his bed is violently shaking. He goes, I'm done. I will be homeless for a couple days until I find another place. I'm not going to continue living here. And shortly after that dream, he did move out. 1 year later, he's still in this town. He's still going to college. His grades have improved. His biology teacher's like, giving you a thumbs up because you're doing so much better. Even though you're not assigned to this class, you're failing art history, but you're doing much better in this one. I'm going to give you a thumbs up there, Teddy. And if I give you a thumbs up for 5 million years, you know what? You would evolve an extra thumb. And that will be on the test. Oh, thank you, Professor. He's writing that note down. Extra thumbs. Teddy ends up starting to date this girl. Kind of like hooking up more than anything. But he meets this girl. Let's call her Beth. And one day he goes, hey, you know what? We're like chilling over at my place. Why don't we go hook up at your place tonight? And Beth goes, yeah, sure. Let's go. They head over to her house, and as the car is driving down the road, he's like, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me, man. They pull up to that old apartment. And he's like, do you live here? And she goes, yeah, I live here. I'm on the first floor. And he's like, oh, damn it. Okay. I mean, listen, I really want to have sex with you. I guess there's really, I mean, he goes in, right? He's not going to turn down sex. He's like, oh, okay, there's a chance I'm going to get assaulted by a phantom from beyond the veil, but there's a chance that I'll just have some sex. So he does go into the apartment, and he does go into her room, and they hook up, and nothing happens. I mean, sexually it does, but no shaking of the bed that is paranormal, just sexual shaking of the bed. And he goes, you know what, I this is kind of cool, like I got this girl that I can hook up with whenever, a booty call, but he never stays the night when they're over at her place. He's always like, hit it and quit it. He does, though, eventually talk to Beth and her roommate and tells them everything about what he went through. Because he's curious if they've ever experienced anything there. So, and he tells the story I just told you, and he goes, yeah, so, you know, that's why I moved out. Have you guys ever had anything like that? And the two girls look at each other and they go, no, we've never had our bed shake in a non-sexual way. It's pretty crazy. And he's like, yeah, that's also why I dip. That's also why I dip, why I never stayed the night here. Beth is like, yeah, that's fair enough. Well, Beth's roommate was a grad student, so she had been there for a long time. Not living in that place in particular, but just in the area for a long time. And she goes, you know, it's kind of crazy that you tell that story and that this haunting seems to be restricted to the third floor. I don't know where the couch was located when I don't know if there's like a living room up on the third floor as well, but that might have been the anomaly of this whole story. She goes, it's really weird. We haven't experienced any hauntings, but it kind of makes sense that you had issues on the third floor because back in the year 2008, this building had a fire in it. And there was a tenant here, an 18-year-old guy who lived here, who, when he saw the fire, began running from room to room and banging on the door. Get out, there's a fire. Huh, what? Yeah, get out of here, go. He ran through the house, warning everybody. But when he got to the third floor to get people to safety, he ended up dying of smoke inhalation. So the hypothesis that Teddy has now, plus Beth and the roommate, was that the ghost or the force shaking the bed was the ghost of the young man who died in there trying to save lives. Teddy said after he moved out, he never had any other paranormal experiences. So whatever was there did not follow him, and it could still remain in that room to this day. First off, I want to say this, sometimes when stories are this tight, not like tight like cool, but it just narratively has a pretty good through line, it can be a sign that it's made up. But like I do when I can, I go through people's posting histories to go, do they have a ton of comments and posts where they are saying this, that, or the other thing that's obviously a person who writes fiction will write several fake stories, weird events, all these things that happen once in a lifetime. This guy mostly posts about Minecraft and making beer at home. There's in fact no other paranormal posts anywhere. It was posted online by someone going by the name Service Large 4601. I don't think it's fake. I couldn't find any other fake stories or exaggerated stories posted. I did, though, also try to find a story about an 18-year-old dying during a fire. And there's a lot of those, but there was nothing I could pin down, really. I was looking at college towns with fires, and I couldn't find anything telling that story. Unfortunately, not all the stuff like this makes the news. So it could have happened, I just wasn't able to find any proof of it. That's why I think it would be awesome if we knew what city this took place in, because that would let us know right away if the story was true, or at least give us a pretty good backing about it. But, even though I can't prove that it's true, or I can't prove that it's false, that's constantly the case with this stuff, it is super interesting because it does match other ghost stories we've told. The key one being, ghosts don't like us to sleep because they can't sleep themselves. We covered a story like that a long time ago, and it makes sense that they can't sleep. And it's something that's very easy for them to do. Either manifesting in our dreams seems to be one of the easiest things a ghost can do. And then just scaring us at night, keeping us up. And the more it's keeping us up, the more psychic energy we're giving to it, because we're in a constant state of fear regarding it. It's feeding off that energy. They don't like us to sleep, and they want us to be scared because they're scared. So both of those things we know ghosts have done in the past. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, this ghost is definitely interrupting his sleep. It's ruining his life. And you could see that if a young man felt that he died unjustly, even though, he was doing the right thing, that he would not want other people to have a life he could never have. He could have been a good person in life, but become a malignant spirit. And this darkness is making him find joy in keeping people terrified and keeping them from succeeding in college, a college life that he never got to really experience. So very, very interesting. Also, the isolation that a spirit or a haunting can cause. Sometimes we cover ghost stories and the entire family's haunted, but a lot of times we cover stories and only one person experiences it. Sometimes I think it's the other people in the family are experiencing it and they're not talking to each other. They all think they're alone. But either way, that sense of isolation, another thing that ghosts feel is loneliness. They're completely cut off from the real world. So if they can make you lonely and scared and not being able to sleep, those are all things that they're constantly going through. They're passing that trauma onto you. Because that wouldn't make you feel like you were losing your mind, especially when it ramped up and it was happening every night. And no one else in this house/apartment building was reporting anything. It wasn't until Adam felt the couch shake. He thought it was all him. It's funny, now that I think about it, if the dream story wasn't in there, let's forget it was, but if he didn't have this dream, you could almost say, well, maybe the shaking was a residual from this young man running into people's rooms trying to wake them up. I don't know when the fire took place, but if it took place at night, him running into the room and trying to rouse a deeply sleeping person to warn them there's a fire, and he's shaking the bed. Get up, get up, get up. The place is on fire. You have to get out. You could almost say that there was no negative intent. It was him trying to wake people up, and it was a residual haunting. That would actually be that's a different story, right? That's a totally different story. That would be awesome in and of itself. A man who still thinks he's trying to save someone's life because he's stuck in this time loop where the place is filling up full of smoke, but even in his last moments, he was trying to get people to safety. He falls and he dies on the third floor, and I would assume in that room. But that's something that people probably wouldn't have details to. If it was talked about in town, or even if it wasn't a paper and I just don't know what city to be looking in, they wouldn't specifically say this room. They would say he died on the 3rd floor. And he's still trying to save people, and you would have to communicate with the spirit, hey, the fire's over, you saved a bunch of lives, you don't have to keep waking me up. But that in and of itself would be a fascinating story. The dream, though, is what makes us look at this as a dark spirit. Because he appeared in the dream and he was evil in the dream. First it was kind of Dennis the Menace type antics, but then it became trying to kill a dog. Caninocide. Legal term for it. But anyways. And then that makes you... And he was gloating in the dream too. You know who I am. I'm the one who shakes your bed every night. That's a really gloating, kind of evil reveal. And the fact that he died as an 18-year-old but appeared as a boy in the dream. Anytime a spirit shapeshifts, almost always shows negative intent. It's not 100%. If your grandma's 90 years old and when she dies, you see her appear as a 50-year-old or a 40-year-old, doesn't necessarily mean she's evil. But it could be a good sign or a bad sign. Probably it could be a bad sign that what you're dealing with, it's hiding its true form. It's not an 18-year-old man, but it's appearing as a little boy in your dream. Because we take children as being more innocent. We take children as being less threatening. So fascinating story. I would love to know where this took place. And I would love to find out if people are still experiencing this. If people in this house or this apartment complex in this room are still experiencing this. Or was it a perfect confluence of events where Teddy was the right person to be experiencing this for whatever reason? Maybe he had his psychic defenses down. Maybe he's more in touch with the supernatural. But it's interesting because he goes, I've never experienced anything since. So it could be an ongoing thing. And most people... Here's the thing. It could also, at this point, just be a room that the landlord doesn't even rent out anymore. If you have so many people breaking leases and so many people complaining, you're like, that's the storage room. And there would be something sad about that. I mean, as horrible as it is to have this dead man shaking your bed at night, you also have to imagine if they don't rent out the room anymore and it's just where they kind of store stuff, you still have the ghost of this man just standing there in the darkness, truly alone. Just standing there, a prisoner of his own making. He tried to save the lives of his neighbors at the cost of his own. And now the only thing left of him is an invisible presence, just watching, just waiting for the next resident of that room to try to fall asleep. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be your email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.